Good morning, boys and girls. We are on page 133, lesson 25 homework. Make sure you are turning to the correct page. Okay, so today we are estimating or rounding the quotients. Remember that quotient means the answer to a not multiplication, answer to a division problem. Answer to division problem. So they are asking you to solve the problem for division. So estimating means that I'm rounding. I want to make sure that I'm rounding the number to the closest and most reasonable number so that it's easy for me to do it mentally in my head or even to do it in writing, just as we are now. Now, some of you may get different answers, and that's perfectly okay because when you're estimating, your estimation can be higher. It can be estimated to the ones place, the thousands place, the tenths place, the hundreds place, or even the tens place. So depending on the place value, your answer might be different, okay? So the first number we have here is 3 and 53 thousandths. Wait, 3 and 53 hundredths divided by 51. So I wrote here, I rounded to 3.50, 3 and 5 tenths divided by 50. So I'm going to show you the standard algorithm way, but I will also show you a different way to solve for it as well. So you have both methods you can use. So remember, the first number always goes inside, and it is called the dividend. The second number always goes outside, and it is called the divisor. So I put 50, my divisor, outside, and 3 and 5 tenths on the inside. How many times can 5 or 50 go into 350? I'm thinking, how many times can 5 go into 35? And that's 7 times. 7 times 50 is equal to 350. And now I'm going to subtract. 350 minus 350 is equal to 0. Now, don't forget to bring up your decimal and your 0 if you do not have a number in that place value. So my final answer is equal to 0.7 or 0 and 7 tenths. Now, for the next problem I have here is letter B. It says 24 and 2 tenths divided by 42. So I rounded it to 20 divided by 40. Now you might have rounded it to 25 divided by 40, which is also a possibility, but I thought 20 is an easier number to round and to solve. So I'm going to now figure out how many times can 20 go into 40. 20 times 2 is equal to 40. 40 minus 40 is equal to 0. So my answer is equal to 2. Okay. Now for problem C. For problem C, I have 10 divided by 20, or 9 and 13 hundredths divided by 23. So I rounded my 9 to 10 and my 23 to 20. So I'm looking here. Can 20 go into 10? No, 0 times. So now I'm going to add a decimal and a 0 to continue. Can 20 go into 100? Yes. How many times can 20 go into 100? 5 times, because 2 times 5 is equal to 10. Add my other 0 and I get 100. Don't forget to bring up your decimal, and my final answer is 5 tenths. Now for my next problem, I have 79 and 2 tenths divided by 39. I am rounding 79 and 2 tenths to 80 and 39 to 40. So I have 40. I'm figuring out how many times can 40 go into 80. 40 times 2, or 4 times 2 is equal to 8. Add my 0 and I get 80. Now I'm subtracting 80 minus 80, which is equal to 0. So my final answer is equal to 2. However, like I said, your answers may vary because you use different numbers. So if you changed it, you changed 7.19 to 8 or to 10, and you divided by 60, then you're going to get a different answer. So now I'm going to show you a second method. These lines aren't very clear, but I wanted you to see that these are kind of separated. They're not together. So we have 7 and 2 tenths divided by 60. I changed 7 and 19 hundredths to 7 and 2 tenths, and I change 58 to 60. Now, I have 7 and 2 tenths divided by 6 divided by 10. So what I did here was I broke 60 into 6 and 10 so that it is easier for me to solve. Now, what I'm going to have when I divide 7 and 2 tenths divided by 6, what I get is going to be 1.2. So I divided these numbers together first and got 1.2. So what is left is 1.2, or 1 and 2 tenths divided by 10. And I know that when I divide 1 and 2 tenths divided by 10, my decimal is going to move one place value over because my number is going to get smaller. So in this case, my decimal moved over once, and my final answer is 12 hundredths. Okay, so those are the two ways to solve. You can solve this way using your factors, or you can solve the standard algorithm way using division right here. But either way, you are going to be solving and getting your answer for division. Okay, now for number 2, they're asking me to estimate the quotient. Remember, estimation means to round your number, and the quotient means the answer to a division problem. So then they ask you to use your estimated quotient to estimate B and C. So right here we have 9 and 13 hundredths divided by 42. I rounded 9 and 13 hundredths to 9.2. And then I changed or rounded 42 to 40. Now, I'm going to break up 40 into 4 and 10 so that I have easier numbers to divide by. So right here you see that I broke up 4 divided by 10, and now I'm going to first solve for 9.2 divided by 4, which is equal to 2.3. And you can see that when I divide here, I multiplied 4 times 2, which gives me 8, subtract 9 minus 8, which gives me 1, bring down my 2. Now I have 12. 4 times 3 is equal to 12, subtract, and I get 0. So that's where 2.3 comes from. Now that I have 2.3, I still have my 10 left. So I'm going to divide 2.3 divided by 10. I'm putting these highlighted marks so you guys can see that they're separated. So 2.3 divided by 10 means that I am moving my decimal over once. My number is being divided, so my number is getting smaller. So that means that my place value also got smaller. So as you can see here, my 2.3 changes to 0.23, or 23 hundredths. Now, what if I were to divide 913 divided by 42? I would do the same thing, except for my place value would change. So instead of having 23 hundredths, I would have 23. And the same thing applies here. 91.3 divided by 42. Instead of having my place value at 23 hundredths, it would change to 2 and 3 tenths. Okay? Now I want you to turn the page. We are on page 134. For the first problem right here, it says Mrs. Han bought a bag of 3 dozen toy animals. Now, the word dozen means 12. They're asking you to multiply 3 times 12. She bought 3 dozen toy animals. So I'm thinking that she bought a lot of animals. Okay, bags, animals, probably for kids. So that's what I'm picturing in my head. Now, these are animals, toy animals for party favors for her son. So it goes in, you know, those little favor bags you get at birthday parties. So that's what I'm picturing in my head. The bag of toy animal costs $28.97. So one of these costs $28.97. Now they want me to round the price, or estimate the price of each toy animal. So in order to figure that out, I first am going to multiply 3 times 12. 3 times 2 is equal to 6. 3 times 1 is equal to 3. I get 36. Now what I'm going to do is round $28.97 divided by 36 to figure out how much each animal costs. Okay, so now I'm going to round 28. Now, both ways can happen. You can either round 28.97 or $28.97 to $29 or even to $30, or you can round it to 28. That is up to you. I rounded it to 28. So I rounded it to 28 divided by 40. Now, I'm going to break 40 into 4 and 10. So 28 divided by 4 gives me 7, and then I'm dividing it by 10. So 7 divided by 10 is equal to 0.7 tenths. So each toy is about 70 cents. Why? I know you can't see the 0 at the end, but you can add as many zeros as you can after the decimal, correct? So in this case, you would have 70 cents. And you could probably see it if you saw it like that. Okay? Now, for problem 4, Carter drank 15 and 75 gallons of water in 4 weeks. We know that 4 weeks means that it's 4 times 7 days, because in 1 day in 7 days is equal to 1 week. He drank the same amount of water each day. Estimate how many gallons he drank in 1 day. So imagine Carter, a boy, right? And he drinks a lot of water. He's chugging a lot of water each day. Good for him. And the amount of water he's drinking is 15.75 gallons in 4 weeks. So we want to figure out how much is he drinking in 1 day. So to find that out, I'm going to divide 15.75 gallons by 4 because there are 4 weeks. And then afterwards, I need to break it down into days. So first, let's divide it by weeks first. So we know that we can round 15.75 to 16. And I also divided by 4 because these numbers are easier to work with than if I were to divide 20, or 2019 or 15 divided by 4. It's easier to use a multiple. So 16 divided by 4 is equal to 4 in a week. Okay, so he's drinking 4 gallons in a week. Now I want to know for each day, right? It says right here for 1 day. So I'm dividing 4 divided by 7. That's 7. There are 7 days in a week, which is going to give me 4 divided by 8. I'm estimating to 8 because it's easier to divide by 8 than it is to divide by 7. So when I divide 4 divided by 8, and I'll show you what that looks like. 4 divided by 8, right? How many times can 8 go into 4? It can't. So I'm going to put a decimal and add a 0. How many times can 8 go into 40? 5 times. 40 minus 40 is equal to 0. Don't forget to bring up your decimal. And right here, we have about 0.5 gallons each day. Okay? Now, for problem B, they ask you to estimate how many gallons he drank in 1 week. Now, this changes things. They now want to know how much in 1 week. So we figured that out earlier, right here. 16 divided by 4 is equal to 4 in a week. Basically writing the same thing again. For problem C, about how many days altogether will it take him to drink 20 gallons? So now I'm figuring out how much would it take him to drink 20 gallons. So I'm going to multiply 4 gallons each week by 5 in order to get 20 gallons. So in this case, it's going to take him about 5 weeks, which is equal to 35 days. Now, if you want to see the equation, it is 4 times a number is equal to 20. And we know that 4 times 5 is equal to 20. And that's where my 5 comes from. You can also divide 20 divided by 4 to also get your 5. Okay? And that is all for today. Please let me know if you have any questions in class.